So making the switch to natural footwear is an essential step for anyone wanting to make long-term progress with their foot health. And this video is going to be all about how to navigate that process as safely and as smoothly as possible. So Andy, what are some things that people should keep in mind? Maybe they've been wearing conventional footwear for a long time and they're new to this. What kind of things are you considering?
They really need to make sure that they're self-analysing where they're at in terms of their injury history, their current injuries, what shoes they've been currently wearing, how much they're barefoot at home, their regular movement practices. And we're going to touch on these points over and over again, but really it is an individual process and finding where you're at for yourself.
Yeah, so those are some really good points that people can reflect on. You know, depending on someone's, like you said, their injury history, how much time they spend barefoot, what do you recommend, what do you typically recommend for someone in those different scenarios?
Yeah, so you might be able to tell that you've been barefoot at home a lot, and this is going to be a whole lot easier for you to start wearing a barefoot shoe. But if you're in a shoe and an orthotic from the time you get up out of bed, then you're probably going to struggle to go straight into a barefoot shoe all the time. And so they're two extremes of situations, and everyone's going to fall somewhere in between there. So it's about trying to manage where you're at and then building from there. You know, if you regularly go to the beach and can easily be barefoot all day, then it's going to be an easier transition. Or if you have a regular movement practice where you're doing yoga and or doing other activities that are barefoot and using your body in many and varied ways, it's probably going to be an easier process for you as well. So it really is about finding that individual aspect.
Yeah, so it's not really any right or wrong when it comes to footwear. Footwear is really just a tool, isn't it? Depending on what you've got going on and what your goals are. And there might be different footwear for different contexts that you need, different activities. And so, you know, you might wear a different shoe about your daily life than you would, say, going for a run and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that brings up a really good point. If you've been in an orthotic and a hocker and then you're going to try and wear a 5 fingers Vibram shoe or something like that, something that's very thin, then that's going to be a huge transition. So you might find a shoe that's somewhere on that transitionary scale that has a bit more cushioning, and maybe you even put your orthotic in there. So again, every situation is different. And then you might wear it for your walks, but you might still be able to go barefoot at home a little bit, to your point that different activities might require different footwear.
I think that's a really key point, is thinking about the load that's placed on your foot depending on the activity. So going for a walk in, say, you know, a very natural, a very minimalist sort of version of natural footwear, like a Vibram or something like that, is going to be very different to going for a run. And so I imagine people who come to you who are runners might need that bit of that hybrid model of finding the right shoe for them for their running, or maybe it's another kind of sport, which gets a little bit more complicated, but finding the right shoe for that activity and then finding the right shoe for more of the lower load activities like walking and...
Yeah, so more specifically, it could be that they wear around home, so just go barefoot, and then when they're going down to the cafe wearing their new barefoot shoes, but they're still going for a run in their traditional running shoes. And that could be a starting point, just for example. And then slowly they might start wearing their barefoot shoes for more day-to-day activities or going to the gym, things that are creating more load. And it might be months before they even go for a run in their barefoot shoe, if they want to.
Yeah. And so regardless of where someone's starting or what their goals are, obviously everyone's situation is very unique, but regardless of any of those factors, what kind of signs and symptoms or signals can people be tuning into as they go through this transition?
Well, that's a really good point, because you should be sort of analysing what you did today, tomorrow, and seeing how that has an effect on you on the following immediately, a few hours afterwards, the days following. It's very important to have this self-analysis going on while you're making these transitions, because otherwise, if you just keep going at it like a bull at a gate, you're going to end up hurting yourself.
Often the body whispers before it screams, and generally the more gradual you go, the more chance you'll have to let the body whisper to you. If you go, you know, in the example of running, let's say you do all your usual running volume in a very different pair of shoes, a much more minimalist pair of shoes, then you might go straight to screaming. And I've made that mistake before with running. But the body, if you take it gradually, it will tell you, hey, you're loading a little bit more in this area, you're loading a bit more in this area, and that's actually a good thing often if we give the body and the feet the time to adapt and the adequate recovery, obviously sleeping enough, eating the right amount of food, that kind of thing. But anything else that people can pay attention to in that process?
Well, I really love that you've pointed that out, because that's what I like most about this, is it's such a process of self-reflection and really getting back in touch with your body and letting your body let you know what's going on. And it's that communication between how your body's moving and then what you're imposing upon it. And so I think that's a really powerful thing that we can then take into other aspects of our life. And so through our feet, we can learn a lot.
And I guess there might not just be signals in the feet as well. Sometimes, obviously, the feet are our foundation, so things can change upstream in the kinetic chain, as we say. So a lot of people find that when they make changes to their shoes, they might feel different things in their back or their hips or their knees. So what kind of things are you seeing in clinic with that?
Yeah, I was going to use that example. A lot of the time when people go from having a heeled shoe, and most shoes are conventional shoes have a heel, that when they put on a shoe that's properly flat, they feel it in another part of their body, whether it be their knees, their hips, or their lower back. And sometimes this could freak some people out, like, oh, my back is sore because I started wearing these shoes. It's just a change that your body's having to adapt to. And so again, that's a message that you might slow down that process, or do some mobility or strength work on your back, or slow down the wearing in process.
Yeah, that's a good point, that, you know, it's not just about focusing on the feet. We obviously have a big focus on feet as the Foot Collective, and they are our foundation. But sometimes changing things at the feet can highlight potential, you know, inadequacies, to put it that way, in different areas. And a lot of times those other areas maybe aren't functioning the way they should, just based on a lack of movement. Obviously, we're sitting, most people are sitting most of the day, so there might be issues in the hips and lower back that need working on. And like you said, it's not necessarily a bad thing that you're getting these signals. It's just about respecting where your body's at and making sure that you are addressing those. And of course, if you are working with any kind of specific condition in the feet or anywhere else, then working with a practitioner like Andy or like someone on our pro directory can be a really helpful thing in terms of navigating that and getting that individualized guidance. But at the end of the day, like you're saying, a lot of it is down to self-regulation and starting to tune into the signals your body is giving you and adapting appropriately as you go.
Our body is highly adaptable, and it becomes adapted to heeled cushioned shoes. And so therefore changing that means it's going to have to adapt into a different way, but it can go both ways. And so when we do go to less shoe, less support, our feet and body adapt. It just takes a time.
Yeah. And in that process, that's the whole reason why we have the exercises as part of this course, and why we have such a focus on foot restoration and restoring natural foot function, because going into these shoes, like we said at the start, is a very, very important step, but there are a lot of functions of the feet that won't be directly targeted or directly improved just by changing the shoes. And so adding in those exercises can actually make for a much smoother process with all of this.
For sure. I think the biggest issue is people doing this too quickly and without appropriate guidance or exercises to meet them along the way.
Yeah. So really that should be your focus, is going very gradually, listening to your body's signals along the way, adapting appropriately where you can, and seeking help with that adaptation if you need to from a practitioner who can help you navigate those signals, and just doing your best to incorporate this daily practice to restore those functions of the feet that have been lost.